Alright guys, so we've got a lot to talk about today because the last few days actually have been absolutely crazy. So Bitcoin has been absolutely all over the place. Tensions between the US and Iran are getting more serious by the day. And Trump just made some pretty shocking comments about secretly moving millions of barrels of oil. And on top of that, we're seeing more chatter around what could become one of the biggest IPOs in financial history, SpaceX. So today, I want to break down exactly what's going on, what it meant for the markets, and where I think we could be heading next. Now let's start with the biggest story for today, the US-Iran situation. Now over the last several days, we've seen more strikes, more retaliation, and a lot more uncertainty about where conflict could be heading from here. And what's interesting is that Trump has been taking more of an aggressive tone towards this whole situation. So he's basically said that if there isn't a deal reached, then the United States is prepared to hit Iran extremely hard. But then, of course, there was another thing that caught a lot of people off guard. So Trump claimed that the United States have been secretly helping move massive amounts of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. At one point, he talked about moving 100 million barrels and said this operation helps prevent oil prices from exploding even higher. Now, what's interesting here is that there seems to be some kind of confusion about exactly what Trump said. So even members of his own administration actually weren't unsure about the details. So there have been a lot of questions recently raised about whether oil was actually Iranian oil or whether the US forces were simply helping commercial tankers through the region safely. But regardless of the details, the bigger message actually does matter a lot more. So what Trump actually appears to be signaling here is that the United States is actually willing to do whatever it takes to keep oil flowing. And obviously that makes a lot of sense, because if oil stops moving through the Strait of Hormuz, the impacts wouldn't just hit the Middle East, it would hit inflation, it would hit stocks, it would hit crypto, and it would pretty much hit every financial market on the planet. So what could we actually expect next? I think there's really two possibilities that we could see. The first is that negotiations continue behind the scenes and both sides eventually reach some type of temporary agreement. And if that happens, oil probably cools down and the markets see a sign of relief. But then the second scenario is the escalation, more strikes, more retaliation, higher oil prices. And if that happens, investors are probably going to become a lot more defensive. And now that is actually where Bitcoin enters this conversation. So Bitcoin has been in a very interesting position lately because normally geopolitical uncertainty isn't great for risk assets. When people get nervous, they move into cash, they move into dollars, they move somewhere else, and they obviously reduce the exposure. So in the short term, a situation like this can create pressure on crypto, but at the same time, Bitcoin was literally built for periods where people start questioning governments, monetary policy, and financial systems. So right now, Bitcoin is kind of caught right in the middle. So short-term versus long-term adoption. And honestly, I think the next major move isn't going to be from crypto news. It's going to be from some macro news, oil, inflation, interest rates, all of that, and whatever happens between the US and Iran, of course. Now, if tensions calm down, Bitcoin could start looking very nice again. If tensions escalate, then of course, expect volatility. Now, let's switch gears and talk about what could be the most exciting investment stories we've actually seen in many, many years. Now, everybody knows the company, rocket launches, Starlink, government contracts, Mars ambitions. This is not some startup operating out of a garage anymore. This is arguably one of the most important technology companies on the planet. And depending on which estimates you look at, some people actually do believe SpaceX could debut at valuations approaching $2 trillion. And now that is actually where the debate starts. So because there's only really two camps. One group believes SpaceX is a once-in-a-generation company that deserves a premium valuation. And then the other group says, hold on, the business may be incredible, but the stock could be overpriced. And well, historically, we've actually seen this before. A great company gets so much attention before going public that expectations become almost impossible to meet. So there's a controversial idea right here. So some traders aren't talking about buying SpaceX, they're actually talking about shorting it. And it's not because they think the company is bad, because they think that the hype might be getting too big. Because personally, I wouldn't underestimate anything connected to Elon Musk. But if the valuation comes at extremely aggressive levels, then don't be surprised if traders start looking for a pullback after the initial excitement. So when I look at everything that's been happening right now, I come back and look at the three things. Number one being the US and Iran situation. That's probably the biggest story affecting markets right now. Now, number two would be Bitcoin's ability to hold up despite all of this uncertainty. And number three, the SpaceX IPO, because whether it succeeds or struggles is going to tell us a lot about how much risk investors are willing to take right now. And honestly, I think we're entering one of the most important periods we've seen in a very long time. So overall, you've got geopolitics, crypto, AI, space technology, and one of the most unpredictable news cycles we've seen in many years. So buckle up. There will be some interesting things happening. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single thing. Now, before we finish, if you guys are looking for a platform to use, then look no further than that description box down below, where you will find Evedex. Now, Evedex is a decentralized platform that's currently running competitions, prize pools, and other trader rewards. Now, traders also have the chance to win prizes such as iPhones, AirPods, Apple Watches, and other rewards through their various events and campaigns. So what makes actually Evedex very, very different and stand out is that it combines the decentralized trading with a competitive environment where you can actually climb leaderboards and compete for prizes. If you'd like to check that out for yourselves, then of course that link will be down in that description box down below. Now, as always, like the video, that'll be greatly appreciated, and I will see you all in the next one.